In the high-altitude wasteland of the northern Caucasus, nature is chaotic. It is a landscape of jagged peaks, fractured granite, and crushing ice. There are no straight lines here, until, allegedly, you look down. Deep within the Kabardino-Balkaria region of southern Russia, hidden near the summit of Mount Hara, lies a reported discovery that has puzzled those who have encountered it. According to Russian explorers, it is a vertical shaft plunging into the earth with unusual precision. Its walls are reportedly polished, its angles appear engineered. This is the Khara shaft. To the few independent researchers who have examined it, it represents an unexplained anomaly. To mainstream science, it remains largely unstudied and unverified. And to those who have tried to map its depths, it is a place shrouded in more questions than answers. This is the story of a mountain mystery that refuses easy explanation. The discovery did not begin with a pickaxe, but with a rumor. For centuries, the local ethnic groups of the Caucasus preserved oral traditions speaking of cities beneath the ice. Most dismissed these as folklore, shepherds' tales to pass the long, frozen nights. But in the early 2000s, one man began to investigate. Arthur Zhimukov was a spelunker and independent researcher based in the region. He approached folklore not as superstition, but as a potential map to undiscovered sites. He noticed a pattern in the legends. They didn't just speak of caves, they spoke of ventilation. They described throats in the mountains that breathed smoke and swallowed sound. Zhimukov reportedly cross-referenced these legends with a more documented source, Wehrmacht archives from 1942. During World War II, the Nazis didn't just invade this region for oil. The Ahnenerbe, the SS division that pursued pseudo-archaeological claims about ancient heritage, had a documented fixation on Mount Elbrus and its surrounding peaks. They were searching for sites they believed held historical significance. Whether any connection exists between Nazi interest in this region and the Khara discovery remains purely speculative. Zhimukov believed there might be a link. According to accounts from his colleagues, in 2011, after years of analyzing topography and satellite imagery, Zhimukov climbed the slopes of Mount Hara. Hidden beneath dense vegetation and rockfall, he reportedly found a narrow opening. It looked innocuous from the surface, but when he dropped a stone, the echo suggested significant depth. The entry shaft is narrow, reportedly barely large enough for a human body. But as Zhimukov and his team began their descent, the geology apparently shifted. Natural caves are typically formed by water and pressure. They are chaotic, twisting, and covered in flowstone. According to expedition reports, this was different. The team descended through a chimney, roughly 130 feet deep, the height of a 12-story building. As they lowered themselves, their lights reportedly caught walls that appeared unusually straight. The stone surfaces seemed flush, exhibiting what the explorers described as surprising parallelism. According to their accounts, it felt less like climbing down a cavern and more like descending a constructed shaft. But the true discovery came when they reached the bottom. The narrow chimney reportedly opened into a large subterranean chamber. The ceiling soared an estimated 120 feet overhead. The walls appeared to be lined with what the team described as megalithic blocks, large rectangular formations of granite. The team reported that the joinery between these blocks appeared precise, with minimal gaps, though whether this represents construction or natural geological fracturing remains undetermined without proper scientific analysis. As the team moved through the space, they observed what seemed to be a deliberate layout. There were formations that appeared to function as pillars. There were smaller passages that branched off, creating airflow that kept the chamber ventilated. To the explorers, it didn't look like a random hole in the ground. But what it actually represents, natural formation, ancient construction, or something else entirely, remains an open question. The unusual characteristics of the site prompted questions. If this was constructed, who built it? And is there any connection to the documented German interest in this region during 1942? We know that under Operation Edelweiss, the German 1st Mountain Division planted a flag atop Mount Elbrus. Historians have documented the Ahnenerbe's pseudo-scientific beliefs about the Caucasus as a supposed cradle of ancient civilizations, beliefs now thoroughly debunked by modern archaeology. Near various sites in the Caucasus, including reportedly near the Khara location, researchers have found carvings of swastika-like symbols. It's important to note that the swastika has ancient roots throughout the Caucasus and Eurasia, predating Nazi appropriation by thousands of years. These symbols often represented eternity, the sun, or good fortune in local traditions. Whether any carvings near Khara are ancient, modern, or connected to wartime German activity is unknown. The proximity of symbols to the site, and the documented German presence in the area, has fueled speculation, but no concrete evidence links the Ahnenerbe to this specific location. Any honest examination of the Khara shaft must consider multiple explanations, both extraordinary and mundane.
Granite and other igneous rocks can naturally form remarkably straight fractures through a process called jointing. When magma cools slowly underground, it contracts and cracks in geometric patterns. Columnar basalt formations like the Giant's Causeway in Ireland demonstrate how nature can create striking geometric precision without any human intervention.
It's entirely possible, and arguably probable, that the Khara shaft represents an unusual but natural example of this phenomenon, combined with erosion along fracture planes. The Caucasus region saw extensive Soviet mining, military construction, and geological surveying throughout the 20th century. Abandoned Soviet installations, bunkers, and test sites are scattered throughout these mountains. The Khara shaft could potentially be a forgotten Soviet excavation, mining shaft, or ventilation system for an underground facility. Without access to complete Soviet-era records for this region, many of which remain classified or lost, this explanation cannot be ruled out. The explanation favored by Zhumukov and his colleagues is that the shaft represents evidence of an unknown ancient civilization, capable of precision stonework. Proponents compare it to megalithic sites worldwide. This theory, while intriguing, faces significant obstacles. No artifacts have been recovered, no dating has been performed, and no mainstream archaeologists have verified the construction claims.
The primary group to study the site was Kosmopoisk, a Russian research organization. It's important to note that Kosmopoisk focuses on anomalous and paranormal phenomena, including UFO research and cryptozoology, rather than conventional scientific inquiry. Their findings, while interesting, have not been peer-reviewed or replicated by academic institutions.
When Kosmopoisk researchers examined the shaft, they reported the absence of typical erosion patterns and noted geometric regularity. They theorized purposes ranging from ventilation for a deeper complex to acoustic resonance chambers. However, it's crucial to acknowledge what we don't have: independent verification, radiocarbon dating, professional geological surveys, or peer-reviewed analysis. The claims about precision joinery and engineered features come primarily from the exploration team themselves. The reported sterility of the site, no tools, pottery, bones, or debris, is cited as mysterious. But this same absence could equally suggest the site is natural, and thus was never inhabited, or was thoroughly cleaned during a Soviet-era operation. Tragically, the investigation of the Khara shaft was cut short by loss. In 2015, Arthur Zhumukov, the researcher who brought attention to this site, died in a car accident. He was reportedly the primary holder of detailed location data and mapping efforts for the shaft. 2 years later, in 2017, Vadim Chernobrov, the founder of Kosmopoisk and Zhumukov's collaborator, passed away from illness at the age of 52. It should be stated clearly, there is no evidence suggesting these deaths were anything other than tragic coincidences. Car accidents claim lives every day, and illness at 52, while premature, is not extraordinary. The human tendency to find patterns can lead us to see connections where none exist. However, the practical effect of these losses was significant. With the 2 primary investigators gone, institutional knowledge about the site diminished. Momentum for further study stalled. To date, no major university has launched a follow-up expedition. No government funding has been allocated to excavate the reportedly blocked tunnels at the bottom of the chamber. The Kahara shaft has largely faded from discussion outside of online forums and local oral tradition. Whether this represents a cover-up, bureaucratic indifference, lack of scientific interest in an unverified claim, or simply the natural fading of fringe discoveries is impossible to say. Today, assuming the reports are accurate, the shaft remains, a dark opening in the Russian mountainside. There are multiple ways to interpret the Kahara mystery. The skeptical view holds that this is either a misidentified natural formation, unusual but not unprecedented, or an abandoned Soviet excavation that has been mythologized through incomplete information and wishful thinking. The believer's view holds that this represents evidence of an unknown ancient civilization, its purpose and builders lost to time, waiting for proper investigation. The honest view acknowledges that we simply don't know. The site has not been rigorously studied. The claims have not been verified. The photographs and accounts we have come from a small group of independent researchers, not academic institutions. Perhaps the most accurate thing we can say is this: somewhere in the Caucasus Mountains there may be something unusual. Whether it's a geological curiosity, a forgotten piece of 20th century infrastructure, or something genuinely unexplained, that question remains open. The mountain keeps its secrets. And until someone with proper scientific credentials and equipment braves the depths again, those secrets will remain exactly that, unknown.